The first sin of Jiangxi Province Mental Hospital, Restraint. In medical terms, restraint has a pleasant-sounding name, protective restraint. Its original purpose is to temporarily restrain a patient during an episode to prevent self-harm or harm to others. However, at Jiangxi Province Mental Hospital, this measure has been abused as a method of torturing patients. Protective restraint is typically limited to 15 to 20 minutes, just enough time for the patient to calm down, after which it should be immediately removed. However, at Jiangxi Province Mental Hospital, patients are tied up for days and nights on end. They are forced to eat, drink, sleep, and defecate while restrained. Female nurses have been reported to beat patients tied to their beds, while male doctors allegedly groped restrained patients. Personally, I was tied up for 7 days and nights at Jiangxi Province Mental Hospital. At the time, a doctor from the hospital threatened me, saying, "Li Yixue, do you believe I can keep you tied up until you're discharged?" I replied, "Go ahead. What's the big deal about tying me up until I'm discharged? If you're really capable, tie me up for life." The second sin of Jiangxi Province Mental Hospital, forced medication. Once someone is admitted to a psychiatric hospital, it doesn't matter who they are, even if they were royalty, they must take medication. Patients are required to take the drugs 3 times a day. You can skip meals, but you absolutely cannot skip the medication. The dosage depends on your level of compliance. If you are very cooperative, you will still be forced to take at least 10 pills daily. If you resist, the doctors will keep increasing the dosage until the medication leaves you mentally incapacitated. It is well known that psychiatric medications have severe side effects. For a healthy person, they are akin to poison, causing dependency, continuously suppressing brain function, and leading to cognitive decline, or even dementia. These drugs can also cause multi-organ failure, acute illnesses, and in severe cases, even death. I personally witnessed a 40-something-year-old woman have an epileptic seizure from forced overmedication. She was rushed out for emergency treatment in the middle of the night. This is an all-too-common occurrence in psychiatric hospitals because, in their eyes, human lives are worth less than pigs or dogs. Some might ask, what happens if I refuse to take the medication? In that case, they will grind the pills into powder, mix them with water to make a milk-like liquid, and insert a tube through your nose into your stomach to force-feed you the medication. Even worse, some sadistic nurses may insert the tube repeatedly just for their own amusement. They take pleasure in watching patients beg, feeling a twisted sense of satisfaction from their suffering. The third sin of Jiangxi Province Mental Hospital, a private prison. A hospital, as the name implies, is supposed to be a place for treating illnesses and saving lives. However, Jiangxi Province Mental Hospital has gradually degenerated into a second detention center for certain corrupt individuals to abuse their power, becoming a tool for maintaining social stability. What kind of arrogance allows the doctors at Jiangxi Province Mental Hospital to openly declare, if the police send someone, we must take them in. If the police say to release them, only then can we let them go. This not only makes them unworthy of being doctors, but it also makes them unworthy of being human. Of course, greed plays a role. When someone is admitted to the hospital, funding is immediately allocated from the financial department. The hospital takes the lion's share, with kickbacks given to the local police station. If I were in their shoes, officer, I might be tempted to do the same. The fourth sin of Jiangxi Province Mental Hospital, human experimentation. It is well known that there are no human rights in psychiatric hospitals. Once you are admitted, you are at the mercy of others, completely powerless. At the most basic level, doctors at these hospitals treat patients as lab rats for drug testing. They prescribe various psychiatric medications, experimenting on patients to observe their effects. I have personally witnessed elderly patients being forcibly medicated until they foamed at the mouth and collapsed to the floor. I have also seen middle-aged women forcibly medicated to the point where they began lactating uncontrollably and became permanently infertile. Have you ever noticed something peculiar? The homeless people who used to frequent the streets, underpasses, and bank entrances have disappeared. These individuals, who should have been sent to shelters, are now being admitted to psychiatric hospitals instead. Once inside, they are sent to operating tables, where their organs are harvested. Even more horrifying, some perfectly healthy individuals are deliberately framed and sent to psychiatric hospitals, where they undergo lobotomies, turning them into lifeless shells. In short, psychiatric hospitals are not places that treat insanity, they are places that create it. The fifth sin of Jiangxi Provincial Mental Hospital, needle torture. The hospital staff will stop at nothing to inflict pain and suffering on their victims. When it comes to methods that can effectively torture patients without leaving visible scars, needle torture is the go-to technique. Nurses will tie patients' hands and feet to the bed, then use needle-like objects, such as ballpoint pen tips or rusty, discarded needles, to repeatedly stab and poke sensitive areas of the body. The sensation is said to be excruciating, making patients wish they were dead. However, the tiny wounds left by the needles are barely visible after the fact. You can imagine the scene from a TV drama where matron Wrong torments away, saying, "I won't kill you, I won't kill you, I won't kill you." That's roughly what it's like. What's more, the terrifying scenes often depicted in TV dramas, where mental hospitals erupt into chaos and screams at midnight, are actually based on reality. Night shift nurses are the primary perpetrators of patient abuse, and they can stab patients all night long, until they pass out from exhaustion. The 10 Sins of Jiangxi Provincial Mental Hospital has reached Episode 5. Regrettably, to this day, I have yet to receive a subpoena from Jiangxi Provincial Mental Hospital. Just a friendly reminder, since the lawsuit between me, Li Yixue, and Jiangxi Provincial Mental Hospital is still unresolved, in theory, the hospital could file a counterclaim against me. They could sue me for causing significant reputational damage to the hospital, or for bringing massive financial losses to their institution. But I can't help but wonder, I've cost you so much money over the past year. Why are the bald-headed people at Jiangxi Province Mental Hospital not losing their temper? Why haven't you come to sue me? And another thing, when will you submit my mental health evaluation report that the court has been urging you to provide for so long? Or is it that your hospital only handles treatment and doesn't issue certificates? His 6th sin of Jiangxi Province Mental Hospital, MECT, electroconvulsive therapy. To visualize the specific scene, imagine the ancient punishments where a person is strapped to the tiger bench and subjected to electrical shocks. The first shock, you no longer know your own name. The second shock, you no longer know where you are. The third shock, you have completely forgotten your past life. The fourth shock, when you leave, you won't even recognize your own mother. When it comes to creating mental illnesses, no one does it better than Jiangxi Province Mental Hospital. The 7th sin of Jiangxi Province Mental Hospital, illegal detention. When I was hospitalized in Jiangxi Province Mental Hospital, at least half of the people there were sent by the police, just like me. These individuals' families did not consent to their hospitalization, and no matter what methods the families used, they could not get them out. Therefore, at least half of the people in Jiangxi Province Mental Hospital are victims of illegal detention. Additionally, ordinary patients are often tricked into the hospital by their families through various means. The hospital requires families to sign a consent form, waiving any legal claims. Of course, this consent form is invalid in court, as the family's opinion does not fully represent the patient's wishes. In recent years, the number of people illegally detained in Jiangxi Province Mental Hospital has reached an unimaginable scale. If Jiangxi Province Mental Hospital's director, Wei Bo, is not familiar with the sentencing standards for illegal detention, let me explain them. The sentencing standard for illegal detention is as follows. If someone illegally detains another person, or otherwise deprives them of their personal freedom, the sentence is up to 3 years in prison, or detention, or deprivation of political rights. If the crime involves beating or insulting the person, the punishment is more severe. If illegal detention causes serious injury, the sentence is 3 to 10 years in prison. If it causes death, the sentence is more than 10 years in prison. If violence is used to cause injury or death, it is punished according to the crime of intentional injury or intentional homicide. If a government official uses their power to commit the above crimes, they will be punished more severely. Director Wei Bo, which category do you fall under? The 8th sin of Jiangxi Province Mental Hospital, illegal seizure of financial subsidies. We say that as long as we consider any matter from the perspective of interests, it will certainly not be wrong. Jiangxi Province Mental Hospital, apart from taking on some prison duties, is primarily focused on making money. For each individual sent in by the police, Jiangxi Province Mental Hospital can apply for financial subsidy of 10,000 yuan per month. If 100 people are sent in, that's 1 million yuan. If those 100 people stay for a year, that's 12 million yuan. This money is easy to earn. By exploiting the gaps in national policies, they use people's personal freedom and health as leverage to illegally seize government subsidies. Does eating bloodstained steamed buns taste good? The ninth sin of Jiangxi Province Mental Hospital, dehumanization. If you are ever sent to Jiangxi Province Mental Hospital, the first lesson you will learn is ideological education. You will constantly be fed the idea that you were sent there because you are a menace to society and a burden to your family. Out there, you are seen as the type of person no one wants around, and since others can't deal with you, they'll let us take care of it. So these nurses, with nothing better to do, like to make the patients crawl on the ground and bark like dogs for their amusement. They'll spill your food on the floor and force you to eat it from there. For patients who are unable to care for themselves, tasks like changing diapers and cleaning up waste are supposed to be done by caregivers, but instead, they force other patients to do it. If a patient refuses, they will shove the waste in their face. For private procedures like ECGs for female patients, female nurses won't do it, and male doctors take over. It's bizarre, and these monsters do things you couldn't even imagine. The 10th sin of Jiangxi Province Mental Hospital, accepting all, no exceptions. Apart from those sent by the police, Jiangxi Province Mental Hospital accepts everyone without exception, including those sent by their families, not showing any mercy either. These doctors run personal online accounts, deceiving families by charging expensive consultation fees while trying to bring in as many patients as possible for in-person visits. Some doctors even blatantly tell the families to simply trick their loved ones into coming, as the hospital employs bouncers to forcibly drag people into the wards. Once there, patients live in conditions worse than animals. The doctors tell patients, "Your family doesn't treat you like a person, so why should we treat you like one? Your family can't send you to this place if they treat you as an individual." If a patient explains they were sent there after an argument with family, the doctors respond, "Who sent you here? When you're discharged, we'll help you deal with them too." They treat minor illnesses as if they were severe, inflating diagnoses to collect more hospitalization fees. Under the law, doctors must inform patients of the addictive nature of psychiatric medications, but these doctors ignore this requirement, increasing the dosage to make sure the patients become dependent on the drugs. Return to Jiangxi Province Mental Hospital every month for medication refills, ensuring a constant stream of income. Some patients, even when returning for a follow-up or prescription refill, are once again dragged into the hospital by the bouncers. Once you enter this mental hospital, you are labeled a mental patient for life. The 11th sin of Jiangxi Province Mental Hospital, degradation of women. Initially, I intended to create a series exposing the 10 sins of Jiangxi Province Mental Hospital. However, as I delved deeper, I discovered that the hospital's transgressions far exceeded my initial list. This series may continue indefinitely, as the hospital's atrocities seem boundless. Female patients at Jiangxi Province Mental Hospital suffer doubly, enduring both physical and emotional torment. Female patients are not allowed to wear underwear, everyone is essentially naked. At Jiangxi Province Mental Hospital, female patients are not allowed to wear underwear. For those female patients tied to the bed, they don't even give you underwear to wear. They may think that your hands and feet are tied up, making it easier for you to defecate and pee in bed. Then, when these doctors make rounds, frequently lift the blankets of female patients. I'm surprised. This psychiatric examination, I don't know if psychiatric examinations require checking the lower body to find the cause. But binding female patients is supposed to be the nurse's job. However, the nurses don't do it, and the male doctors are eager to take over. During the process of binding female patients, the male doctors occasionally touch sensitive areas of the patients' bodies, saying things like, "Don't move, don't scream, or I'll kill you." Do you believe me? Every time there's a bath time in the female ward, these male doctors act like it's a holiday, wandering around the female ward instead of staying in their offices. It's as if the male doctors at Jiangxi Province Mental Hospital have never seen a woman before. The 12th sin of Jiangxi Province Mental Hospital. Unable to live, unable to die. Many people, including myself, after enduring the inhumane torture and abuse at Jiangxi Province Mental Hospital, develop a thought: if you lock me in here to live a life worse than that of pigs and dogs, I might as well die. This feeling truly makes one wish for death every day. So, some people are driven to bang their heads against the wall. But once you exhibit such behavior, you will be bound like a mummy to the bed, unable to move at all, and once bound, you will never be released. Some people choose to swallow foreign objects. After being sent out for emergency treatment, once they are out of life-threatening danger, They are directly transferred back to the mental hospital from the ICU. Others choose to go on a hunger strike. If you don't eat for more than a day, they will grind the rice into a paste, then insert a tube through your nostril into your stomach and force feed you. Do you understand the feeling of being pierced through by a tube while alive? And it's not just once. If you want to eat normally with your mouth in the future, sorry, you won't have that chance. Every meal from then on, you will have to be fed through the tube.